What the Tech is sponsored by Shutterstock.com, with over 20 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips. For 30% off your new account, go to Shutterstock.com and use offer code WhatTheTech2. Audible.com, the internet's leading provider of audiobooks, with more than 100,000 downloadable titles across all types of literature. For a free audiobook of your choice, go to audiblepodcast.com/Andrew. Squarespace, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website, blog, or online portfolio. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase, go to squarespace.com and use offer code WhatTheTech1. And by Ting, mobile that makes sense. Go to gfq.ting.com and get a $25 credit when signing up.
What the Tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarian, and I'm joined by Paul Thurrott, live from Tijuana, Mexico. How you doing, Paul?
Exactly. I'm pretty good.
I had a hat. I'm getting a really bizarre sense of deja vu right now, and I can't tell why.
I know. Tell me about it.
I don't know. You could have possibly been doing this exact same thing.
You ever seen the movie Groundhog Day?
Yes, that's what I feel like.
That's my life.
I'm a younger and swarthy-looking Leo Laporte. Today, we have a lot to talk about. You know, for people watching live, obviously, we're recording our show two days late because Paul just came back from Mexico, from Cancun, and I heard you on Windows Weekly literally a half hour before we started doing this, and you were talking about how you went on an all-inclusive.
Yeah.
And my wife has been trying to get me to go on an all-inclusive to Mexico, to Cancun.
Well, let me talk to her for 15 minutes.
Okay, please.
And she'll never want to do it.
Why?
Because I'm sure I should say it's possible and probable even that some all-inclusive things are worth doing, and even the thing we did was worth doing in some ways. But the problem at the place we were at was that the food wasn't any good, the drinks weren't any good. Well, if you want crazy tropical drinks, you're all set. Like if you want pina coladas and stuff like that, obviously that was all over the place. But, you know, the beer was bad, the wine was bad. And that's the stick with all-inclusive is all-inclusive means if it's there, you can have it all you want.
Yeah.
But they only have what they have.
Yeah, but how's the food?
Terrible.
Awful, right?
And that was the thing. Like we go to these buffet things, and like I go to Vegas all the time, and like, you know, I don't really like Vegas, but like the buffet at any hotel in Vegas is amazing.
But let me ask you this, Paul. I know you're. I'm not going to say a food snob because but
right,
you like eating at interesting places.
Yep.
Is that why the food was no good?
It's not why. In fact, I had this conversation with my wife because when we go down to Florida and visit her parents, we're in a place that's kind of I'm gonna get the name of the town wrong. I think it's Bradenton. I think it's not like a high end resort community at all. It's just very middle class. We eat at like the Waffle House. We eat at like a local little seafood joint thing. I love food like that. Like that's good food. It's not expensive. I'm not like a sushi eating, wine drinking snob. Like when I go to Mexico, like
I kind of want you to be. I kind of want you to be.
I can be, but the point is, I go to Mexico, like I want to eat Mexican food, you know, and they almost didn't have any Mexican food at all. Like it was crazy.
It's like your only option is like a Ruth Chris.
No. There's no. By the way, there is a Ruth Chris, but in the resort itself, the all-inclusive part is you just whatever they have. So the Mexican food was either non-existent or they had some at lunch that was just not very good. And it's just like if you know anything about Mexican food, you know it's simple ingredients, repurposed in a million different ways, just like a lot of ethnic foods, you know, Italian foods like that, whatever. Yeah. It's really easy to get right. Actually, my wife mentioned Taco Bell. Someone says Taco Bell in the comments. If they had had a Taco Bell in there, that would have been amazing.
Yeah,
you know, and that was just the disappointing. But it took a few days of disappointment on my part for that to kind of settle in. And you know, like one day we were spent out. We went to an island and did the dolphin stuff. And then one day I said, look, let's just go get lunch somewhere. And we went up the street and went to a great Mexican restaurant, you know, so it's there. Yeah. It's just that the problem is like when you pay for an all-inclusive thing, like you want to take advantage of it
and then you don't want to eat it.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah, we had a similar thing. Now, before we go into the tech stuff, what was the internet speeds like?
So honestly, I probably doing the podcast would have been bad. I didn't measure it, but just in regular usage, it was fine. I actually downloaded a couple of big files, like some videos, some stuff from Microsoft, and then I actually downloaded like a Riff Tracks movie to watch on the way home. I had to leave those on for some hour or hour and a half while I was off doing stuff, but it worked fine. I mean, the internet connection was fine, so I mean that part of it was okay.
We went to Aruba a couple of years ago, and it's a small island. It's not really, it's touristy, but this was right after like the Natalie Holloway stuff, so like nobody was there. Like the tourism was dead in Aruba, and we were staying at the Marriott Solstice. And let me tell you, I think I was having like 25 megabits by 25 megabits. This is like 4 years ago. Insane speeds. But the problem was the same exact thing. There were, in the hotel, there were restaurants, and they were awful. There was like a seafood restaurant, and it was all frozen food.
Yeah.
Like it was literally like frozen food. So we got out, we ended up going to Ruth Chris every night because there was nothing to eat.
Wow. Well, no, I mean, there's an area of Cancun that has all the American restaurants, and like Ruth's Chris is there, and Outback and whatever. But, we didn't do that stuff for the most part. But I don't know. It's just I eat a better breakfast here at home than I ever ate there. I mean, my kids loved it. They, the stuff they got was fine, and the other parts of it, the pool stuff they had there was great, and it was right on the beach, which was amazing. I mean. It's worth it going there just to see the beach, just to be in the water and
absolutely
experience that. It's crazy.
Did the kids have fun?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's what matters. So
it's gonna ruin them on everything else we ever do.
So we have a lot to get to, and I want to do our Audible spot before because people have been missing it. We didn't do it last week. We didn't get time to do it, so I want to get into it now because I've gotten a lot of emails over the last week, and people are like, hey, where was your pick? I didn't get an Audible pick from you guys. So let's do our Audible pick of the week to start the show. Okay. Of course, we do it every week. audiblepodcast.com/Andrew. Get your free audiobook there. Today, Paul and I are dressed up like the United Nations. I am representing Russia, and he's representing every awful Mexican stereotype that exists in American culture. But what is your pick of the week, Paul?
Yes. I actually was listening to this while I was away. It's called Thomas Jefferson, The Art of Power by John Meacham and narrated by Edward Herman. This is a great, I like a history, obviously. I don't know a lot about kind of colonial, post-colonial U.S. history, and couldn't name the first 15 presidents or anything.
Where do you begin? Like, do you begin at the Civil War with like your fascination?
I pick and choose. I mean, I'm really into some of the Roman history type stuff and European history, and then United States is obviously there's some interest in the Revolutionary War and in the Civil War. It's all basically around wars now that I'm thinking about it, but.
Well, we have a rich history of wars in this country.
Yeah, I guess we do, yeah. So the Thomas Jefferson stuff is fascinating because this guy is arguably our greatest president ever in many ways, and was the start of a kind of a Jeffersonian dynasty, if you will, in the sense that it wasn't that there were a bunch of presidents named Jefferson, but that most of the next several presidents, next like 7 or 8, 9 presidents, all very specifically modeled their presidency after Jefferson, wanted to be like him, with one exception, I think John Quincy Adams, who was, I think, the only one-term president in that bunch. And just an amazing, amazing guy. And, of course, a lot of contradictions with Jefferson because he, after his wife died, had relations with a slave for many, many years, had many children, and there's a lot of controversy around that because the guy who wrote, authored our greatest documents and set our country on its correct course had slaves, and that kind of stuff. So just a fascinating story. And a lot, I guess it's worth noting too, there are notable Audible books in that you can read a book, in a book form or in Kindle or whatever, and you can listen to Audible books. This is an Audible book. I actually am listening to this one in Audible. It's not an amazing Audible experience like some of them. Some of the Stephen King books are the Dracula book, which is one of the best classics, where it's acted out by many famous actors. It's amazing. It's not that this is a great Audible book. It's just an amazing historical story of a real person who was, frankly, one of the best presidents ever, and one of the most amazing historical figures in our country's history. Absolutely. So
very cool pick, and I'm actually going to download this because I don't really.
It's a good one.
I'm ashamed to say it because I'm such a history buff, but I'm right after the Civil War. I just got into the Civil War stuff, so I'm almost going backwards with my American history. So really interesting. Thomas Jefferson, The Art of Power is Paul's Audible pick of the week. And of course, if you don't have Audible, you get a free audiobook if you go to audiblepodcast.com/Andrew. And I want to thank Audible for sponsoring What the Tech. So Paul, we have a lot to talk about today.
We do. All of a sudden.
Yeah. And initially I wrote the show. I was like,
by the way, if we had done this on Tuesday, we would have had nothing to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right, actually,
because everything's happened since then.
Yeah. So it kind of worked out, right?
Yeah.
In a strange way. And now we have this gimmick where we wear hats on the show. It's almost
I'm like that guy in Times Square.
Yeah. I feel like this is iPad today. Yeah. This is what they do, right? They wear hats at the end of the show.
I have to say.
It's quite impressive.
I wish it would rain in here because I would be perfectly dry.
So Google, bizarrely, about 2 hours ago, had this weird announcement about a new Chromebook. And, I've had this bizarre fascination. I can't even talk. Fascination with the Chromebook. And I almost bought one over the holiday season. I decided, you know what, forget it. I'm not going to do that. I don't need it right now. And they announced a new Chromebook, touchscreen Chromebook. It's called the ChromeBook Pixel. They're listing all these specs. It weighs 3.35 pounds. It's touchscreen. It has, I believe, 32 gigs hard drive space, USB 2.0. All the standard stuff.
All right, but let me just stop you there for 1 second. Yeah. Because given what you just said,
it sounds good.
And given what we know about Chromebooks and how much they cost,
it sounds great. Now, here's
clearly
where
this thing's going to cost about $500.
You know what, Paul? Let's say $600.
All right, it is a high end for a Chromebook. I'll give you $600.
Let's go to $600. Here's where it gets a little funny. Yeah. It's a 3x2 display. It's 2560 by 1700 resolution.
To be clear, 3x2 is another way of saying square.
Square. It's not 4x3, but it's 3x2.
It's square.
It's not 16:9. It's not widescreen.
It's not widescreen.
And the price, Paul, shocker. Oh, by the way, it kind of looks and feels like a MacBook Pro. Kind of looks like the older MacBook Pros where it was a little squared.
Do you feel like they're going after a certain company with this product in some way?
You know what? I'm still happy with it. Okay, you know what? It's a little... The design is cool. Looks like a MacBook Pro, but it looks like an older MacBook Pro. Okay, I'm okay with that. No problem. Here's where the big problem starts. Starting price... $12.99. I'm not talking about $12.99. I'm talking $1,300 for the Wi-Fi.
Right.
$1,400. $1,450 for, I guess, 4G.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. It's coming with a Intel Core i5 processor.
By the way, 5 hours battery life.
5 hours battery life. So
I want what you're looking for in something that can only browse the web.
And I want to get your opinion on this because I'm positive I know what you're going to say. But I had this discussion in the chat room with one of our regular viewers, and he goes, Andrew, I think you're wrong with this. You always say that Google has a beta mentality, but that used to be what they used to do, and it's kind of changed now. They're not doing that. And I said, you know what? He probably has a point. And they put this out, and he was in a chat room today. He's like, you know what? I could have been wrong.
Yeah.
$1,300 for a Chromebook.
That's insane. The only thing I can think. So this is the problem here. You've got to look. I feel like Chrome OS is useless and pointless, and I know that some people disagree with that. It doesn't really matter. The one thing I think we can all agree on is that it's like a low end system. It's designed to be simple and nothing. It runs on low end hardware. It doesn't have a lot of requirements for hardware, storage, and all that kind of stuff. The systems are cheap. You can buy a Chromebook for $200. It's crazy, really cheap. I'm not saying it's an awesome machine. It definitely isn't, but that's
dirt
what it
cheap.
is.
It's all cloud based. I mean, everything's cloud based. It's dirt cheap.
This doesn't make any sense. I mean, why wouldn't, if you had $1,300 to spend, why wouldn't you buy a MacBook Air, a Samsung Ultrabook, a Surface Pro, whatever,
even a MacBook
and run
Pro,
Chrome on it?
even a MacBook Pro.
Sure, whatever.
I mean, you could buy so many things for $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 bucks.
That price range, right? You could get a MacBook Air. I'm sorry, a MacBook Pro 13-inch Retina.
Yeah.
For not too much more than that. I think it's in shouting distance of that. This doesn't make any sense. And here's the problem. So here's the problem. I think Google, in their insane desire to both copy and outdo Apple, have decided that they have to have this kind of Retina type display like they have on their Nexus 10 tablet, which now is the highest resolution of any tablet. This is now the highest resolution / highest pixel density of any laptop. It's not technically a laptop, but laptop type machine.
Yeah.
Those displays are expensive, clearly. And you have to think most of the price of this has got to be it's the display, it's standard Intel parts. I mean,
okay, so give me an example of a high-end Windows 8 touchscreen laptop.
Yeah. Well, Surface Pro.
Okay, Surface Pro. But the Surface Pro, okay, but that's more like a tablet though, right?
No, but it's like an Ultrabook. I mean,
this doesn't come off.
A Samsung Series 9 laptop.
Okay.
Ultrabook.
Yeah.
Is in 13-inch, probably somewhere in the $999, $1199 range. 13-inch screen.
Okay, someone said the Lenovo X1 Carbon Touch.
Yeah, that's bigger. I mean, we're getting bigger. The X1 Carbon Touch is 14 inches. It is touch. I'm not sure the resolution on it. It's probably 16 by 9, 1600 by 900.
So the big question is, why? Why?
Right.
Exactly who is this for? Who?
In other words, I do believe there is a market for people who will accept the limitation of Chrome OS because it's so cheap. Because it's a familiar form factor, and they feel like I'm going to get this, and my kids have to be productive on it because it's got a keyboard and there's nothing to do, and it's not an iPad. They're not just going to play games, and it costs $300 or less, and that makes sense. But now we take that same system and we put it in something that costs $1,000 more than that. That is insane.
It is insane. I mean, it's almost baffling.
You can't open this thing on a plane. Not that you could use it on a plane because almost none of it works offline today. But it only gets 5 hours of battery life, according to Google. Which
you know what this is almost like? It's how Google does those April Fool's jokes every year where they put out some ridiculous product. Yeah. Like this is the product. I feel like this is a big April Fool's joke where they're putting this out there like a month in advance. We should do this right now because we can find all the people who actually think this is a good idea, and then the joke's going to be on them. And you know what? What we're going to do? We're going to let them order it. And then we're gonna write sorry sucker April Fools on the receipt.
Then we're gonna send them one of those Nexus Q devices.
I don't know. I mean, listen, I could be a little critical of Google. I use Google products all the time. I have an Android, phone. I don't understand anybody that could defend this product.
No, it makes no sense.
Makes no sense. And why the 3x2?
This product doesn't make sense at exactly half the price.
Okay, $700.
700, 650, whatever, $700, too expensive. This price, you're joking. You're joking.
I mean, you could technically get rid of everything and put Windows on it.
It's thick and ugly. It's not even attractive looking.
No.
You know
what? This is a joke.
Wafer thin laptops with wedge designs and glass trackpads, and this thing is like a weird metal brick.
I love this. Google, this is Wired.com. Their headline: Google debuts the Pixel, a premium touchscreen Chromebook.
There is no market for this device. None.
How many do you think they're going to sell?
3. This makes less sense than that Q thing.
The Q.
It does. It's just stupid. This is dumb.
This is probably the worst internet they've ever put out, right? What's dumber, this or Google Wave? Right. Google Wave was a huge mistake. That was Google. That was not googly, I liked it. I used it a lot.
God. You and Gina Trapani.
Me and Gina Trapani were the only users. We were just right back to each other all day.
Exactly. We were in the same wave. We were riding the wave.
I don't know, and I really would like to see what their reasoning behind this device is. I mean, but why isn't it even? Let's forget about the absurd pricing on this thing. Why isn't it widescreen?
I don't know.
Like, I want to know that reason. Was it like, well, if
I think the way they said it was because it's like the web isn't widescreen. Which, by the way, fair enough. You know, most web content is, you know, kind of a portrait orientation. It scrolls down the bottom, right? It doesn't. Most web pages don't do a good job of filling a screen on a widescreen, right? I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, but I mean, the entire planet has gone widescreen.
I know, it's crazy.
I mean, 90% of the computer usage, I guarantee you, is web browsing at this point, and
let me
everybody has a widescreen.
On Windows or on the Mac, you know, when you have a widescreen display, and your web browser is normally not full screen, unless you're like really old or you know, maybe have bad vision or something, and you can at least see other things off to the side. There's nothing else to see in Chrome OS. You know, there's a desktop, but it's pretty much it's the browser. So I think the theory is it's just the browser. You know, it's just it's the perfect shape for the browser window.
At a whopping $1,300.
That's incredible.
What it is interesting is that it's an i5 in there.
Actually, maybe that's why it's so expensive. You know, somebody was saying, you know, you can get the same resolution display in the Nexus 10 tablet, 10-inch screen, but that is widescreen. Maybe this is because, is it harder to get these square screens now? I mean, is nobody making, this is a crazy, the whole thing, like resolution / aspect ratio. Like, it's not like these things are going out anywhere else. You know, I mean, no one else is, this is not a screen you see and you'll ever see in any other device. Maybe that's part of it. It's like a specialty screen.
I don't know. I mean, you know, maybe they were like, listen, we came up with this video about the Google Glasses thing, and people are really liking it, and it's this absurd device, and we're getting some good press. Why don't we push our luck with even more ridiculous products and see what happens?
I think this is a mistake.
But you know, they did really well over the holiday season with these Chromebooks. They were sold out everywhere. I couldn't get one.
They cost $300. That's why. This is not. There was never a. You know, claiming that there's a demand for Chromebook is like claiming that Linux is successful in smartphones because it's really what Android is. If Linux was running on smartphones, no one would buy Linux smartphones. People buy Android smartphones because they've hidden Linux. Like, nobody cares about Chrome OS. They buy those things because they're cheap. There's no market for this. This is like saying, like, hey, look, we sell a Chevette that costs like $1,600, but here's another Chevette that costs $30,000. It has nicer metal.
It's chrome. We got chrome bumpers on it.
Yeah, you know, like, it's the same car. It's not gonna. It's just, it doesn't make sense.
I mean, I've been trying to figure this out because when I initially saw it, I was thinking it was so absurd. But then I'm like, you know, maybe I'm being a little bit one-sided on this. Maybe there's some way I could justify this device being on the market, and no, there really isn't.
No, actually, and the way I know that's true is because I've been very critical of Chrome OS. I don't think it makes any sense. Like I said, I think that Google should consolidate their OSs and just have Android, and Chrome, the browser, can run on Android. To me, Android is a system that could scale to a laptop type device. I don't understand why they don't do that. Okay, whatever. That's just my opinion. But the Chromebooks, like I said, even though I don't think it makes sense, I get that at that price, some people will buy those things because, you know, it's whatever. But if it doesn't take off, who cares? I only spent $300 on it.
But you know what's interesting? People didn't buy Linux laptops at that price.
That's true.
Isn't that weird? I mean, and you know,
for a little while they did. So with the first netbooks were Linux. Before, you know, remember Microsoft didn't have they were busy putting Vista out. Didn't want to keep licensing XP. They had to temporarily keep XP in the market just for netbooks until they had Windows 7. For a little while, there was that threat that, like, you know, Linux is going to take off finally because of netbooks, and it never really did. But it, you know, it was temporary. It was very temporary. I think Chromebooks, honestly, at the $200 to $300 price point, they're probably okay because that's PC makers know now because of netbooks they can't make money in that market, so they're not going to try really hard to compete with that.
Yeah, I don't know, but even now, like you'll see, Dell, I think Dell still puts out Linux laptops. You can get a Linux, like a 13-inch Linux-based, Ubuntu-based laptop, and nobody is interested in those devices, but people are going like crazy and buying these Chromebooks.
But again, there's an ad in Chrome today that says buy a Chromebook, and it's $200.
Yeah, how could you say no? I mean, it's an impulse buy, much like everything else. Yeah, it's interesting how we're buying
stuff. It's a
stuff.
fancy anniversary dinner in a good restaurant,
Yeah.
I mean, no, seriously. I mean, $1,300.
I'd like to know. I mean, if you're watching live, and I'm sorry for the people watching pre-recorded, would you purchase a Chromebook for $300? I'm just curious how many people would buy this thing, or $200. Would you buy a Chromebook?
If this thing was $600, we would be having a completely different conversation.
You know what? I could kind of justify and I say, you know what? It's interesting. They're testing it out. They're seeing if it's going to work. Maybe this is their step into having both devices.
What's worth pointing out is like, why is the web designed for this resolution? I would argue no.
3x2.
With one exception. No. I mean this just high resolution. In other words, most websites, if you loaded them onto a very high res screen like this, which would be on a PC, would be some crazy big screen, like a 30-inch display or something. The web page would be like this tiny column in the middle. You know what I mean? Like it wouldn't look very good. And so the only exception to that are those web pages which have been designed to work on the new iPads, right? Because the iPad has had a Retina display since about a year ago, I guess. Right? I think about a year ago.
What, the iPad?
The iPad 3, I think was the first
iPad
one.
3.
So, and of course now they have Retina MacBooks and stuff, but Macs don't have a huge market share, so it's probably not a serious endeavor there. But you'd almost have to design it, properly to run at these resolutions, right? I mean, I'm sure they do great font anti-aliasing and all that kind of stuff, but graphics will look bad unless they're designed to be very high resolution and so forth. I just don't think most sites would look very good at this resolution.
I don't know. Maybe maybe this is like the Google Glasses thing. They're going to put out a couple of them every year. They're going to sell it for an extremely insane price, and a certain group of people are going to buy it and they're going to use it and they're going to forget about it.
That's an awful lot of money to spend.
It's worse than the Apple. It's worse than the Apple products. At least with Apple,
it's like plus who's going to even Google people can't use this.
They can't justify the $1,300 on something that doesn't make sense.
No, because they can't write code on it.
Yeah.
I mean, like most of the stuff, I don't understand who this is for. Is there some luxury market for people that want to browse the web? That's crazy.
It is crazy. It's obscene. I don't know. But
that doesn't make sense.
I'm sure we're going to be talking about this in the coming weeks and months. And you know what? Maybe they might never ship it. Maybe they're never going to ship this thing.
Right.
Happened with the Q. Before. They've done it before. They put out an insane
feedback. I have to think they've gotten some crazy feedback on this thing.
Yeah, I cannot imagine one. If anybody is on Twitter right now, please find some positive feedback about this device, because I'm dying to know who the people are. I'm dying to know how they're spinning this into a good thing. Much like the Q. The Q was a great device. Paul.
No, everyone was confused by the Q.
Yeah. I had no idea what it was. And I don't know what this is. But you know what I do know, Paul? I do know that we have another topic we want to talk about. We want to talk about the PlayStation 4 announcement. But before we do, I want to welcome a new advertiser to the show, and it's Shutterstock. Now, I make websites on the side with Suncast in our chat room that he's in there right now. He's a web designer, and I help him out with some of the back-end stuff. One of our viewers, Colm, he's also he works for us too. He's a web designer, and almost every web designer that I talk to uses Shutterstock for everything from stock photos to vector files to videos, illustrations, everything you could imagine. The cool thing about this is a lot of times, like, we've had to do video intros for some of the shows here, and it's been a total pain in the butt to kind of create them on your own. So you could use a service like Shutterstock, and you could buy the video from there. what they're doing right now, if you use offer code WhatTheTech2, you get 30% off on a new account when you sign up for Shutterstock. And they have an unbelievable amount of stuff on there. My wife actually made a website a couple of years ago, and she signed on to Shutterstock, and she downloaded as many clips as she wanted on there, because there's no limitation really with certain accounts that you could get from there. You could choose from over 20 million high quality photos, vector files, video clips, whatever you're looking for. It's unbelievable, and they have many contributors to Shutterstock, like professional photographers, so you're getting high quality stuff to use on your website or any kind of project you're working on. And they're actually adding 10,000 images every day to their library of products, so there's always going to be something new. We use Shutterstock for our wrestling show. We have a professional wrestling show here on the network, and we use Shutterstock to get the image. Again, if you use offer code WhatTheTech2, you get 30% off on a new account. 30% is not bad. That's a good deal you're getting there. Shutterstock.com, and I want to thank them for supporting What the Tech. Well, maybe you could use some of their images for any, something you're doing. Maybe when you want to create this image of what the Google device should be, you could have like a laptop and a hammer just hitting it over and over again.
Right.
You could possibly do that with them.
You're going to hit it until it's flatter.
Until it's flat, and you could hit the edges where it's round. It's insane how all this stuff happened like over the last day. It's really, so we're kind of lucky that we didn't do the show on Tuesday. I want to talk about the PlayStation 4 announcement.
Yep.
We've been speculating over the last couple months, what this device should be like, what it's going to be like, what the UI is going to be like. We really didn't get too much information about the actual hardware, the look of the device. We saw the controller because it was leaked all over the internet. I would imagine it was done, on purpose at this point, because they have this big announcement. But they did announce some of the stuff that they're going to be doing, like it's going to be cloud-based. You're going to, they didn't announce a price. I'm just trying to go back to our notes where I've lost them, where I had a lot of the stuff here. It's going to have Blu-ray, of course. They're working on second screen applications. It's going to rely heavily with a lot of aspects of the PlayStation 4 on a second screen. But my question is, when they released the PlayStation 3, we were in a totally different market. The iPad didn't exist. Apps weren't as popular. This appification of our gaming didn't exist. The casual gamer had no choice but to buy a console or buy games on the computer. You were playing heavy-duty games. Now the casual gamer is not going and buying an Xbox or a PlayStation, 3 or 4. They're playing on their iPads, and they're playing, a $1.99 game for the next 3 hours, and they're happy. So with all these things that they've announced, do you think this has a chance of having the success rate, of 70 million units sold like the PlayStation 3, or is it a totally different ballgame now for them?
Actually, I do think they have that, but, the value proposition here is the same as it is for the next Xbox, which is the market for dedicated gaming consoles is in the tens of millions of units. But the real market is the entertainment market. It's that much broader notion of I have a set-top box in my living room that connects me to the movies, the TV shows, the movies, TV shows, music, photos, and the online services, that matter to people. And that's going to be where these consoles are a big deal. We'll see. To date, I have to say, Microsoft has done a much better job on that end of it than Sony has, which is bizarre because Sony has serious roots in entertainment, of course. They have a movie studio and music, and a kind of a rich history with that stuff. They've just never done a good job of integrating it. So, I think what we saw this week from Sony is a preview of what we're going to see in 2 months from Microsoft when they introduce the next Xbox.
When do you think they're going to announce it?
In 2 months. In 2 months.
Okay. So I guess Sony wanted to kind of beat them to this with the announcing, but you really didn't. Yep. We didn't learn a lot. We got, we learned that it's an AMD chip, and we learned about the video card. We saw some renderings, but we didn't really learn much.
I don't know. See, I'm not sure about that. I think we learned the right things. Like a lot of people are focusing on, they didn't even show the box. We didn't see the box. I thought they did a good job of explaining up front in their press conference that, it's not about the box. It used to be about the box. Sony in particular, PS2 and PS3 in particular, when they released those boxes, they designed them to be around for several years each. That these were platforms that were going to exist, and as far back as the PlayStation 1, actually, Microsoft feared that Sony would turn this thing into a computer, that people would hook up a keyboard and use it as a computer. And it's kind of interesting that never happened, because obviously the devices, especially the most recent one, is as powerful or more powerful than a PC can be.
But do you remember the whole thing? You're going to be able to run Linux on this thing.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing for a little while.
Yeah.
But the way they described this version was, they said, in the past we used to talk about the supercomputer on a chip, but that's not the focus anymore. The focus now is on the person who's playing the games and all of those things that they want to connect to. And there's a lot of stuff going on here that I really like the sound of. I like the second display stuff, integrating with the devices that people already have. They're realizing, like Microsoft has, that it's a heterogeneous world. They can't rely on PlayStation people anymore. That you're going to have a guy that will have a PS Vita and a PS3, and that they're Sony guys. They're going to have a PS4. Sorry, they're going to have a PS4 maybe, and an iPad and a Windows laptop, and they need to have second screen experiences that work on all that kind of stuff. So I think they've said all the right things they need to say, and like Microsoft's announcement in a few months, it's a preview. Yeah. Obviously, they're going to fill it out at E3 in June, so they've kind of whetted everyone's appetites. I wouldn't be surprised to see the PS Vita get a little sales bump because of this, because people are going to look at this and be like, I think I like where they're going with this. We'll see.
I would have liked to see some sort of preview for the UI. We didn't really get a sense of how they are going to be a like a media device rather than a console.
So obviously they're waiting on E3 for that. That's the one thing I would say they've done poorly.
Yeah.
I think everyone would agree to that. So we'll see how that goes. It's amazing to me that Sony doesn't have a better established ecosystem of services given the company. Obviously, they've fallen on hard times. I know that they know that one of the things they've done badly is integrating all of their pre-existing services, because they're basically little fiefdoms that they don't compete with each other, but they don't really share with each other.
They've fallen behind. Let's go back to 2006 when this device came out.
Yep.
Microsoft didn't have a vast media ecosystem either at that point.
That's for sure.
They were building on it, and they had some success with the Xbox, but they had started a little bit, but it wasn't this, wow, look at this, everything is on here. You're going back to 2006, totally different world we're living in as far as media consumption goes, as far as gaming goes.
Well, but the 360, which was released a year earlier, was designed for one purpose and one purpose only. It was hardcore gaming.
Hardcore gaming, yeah.
That was it.
But they were able to adapt. They realized, well, listen, not everybody's a hardcore gamer, and in order to be successful in the living room, we kind of have to make this an all-in-one device. Where Sony, they did attempt it, but they attempted it and they did a really poor job at it. Didn't really adapt with the times.
I only have vague memories of this now, but in the early days of the MP3 player market, before there was an iPod, I would say, mostly, Sony put out a sequence of devices that were laughably terrible. And some people bought them because Sony always had a great name in consumer electronics, and obviously Sony was the Walkman people. But they had like that pen-like device. They had their own audio format. They had their terrible stores. In the beginning, the Sony devices would only load music that came from their stores, or your own music. They wouldn't load other stuff, and it was just always really badly done. Just really badly done. And so years have gone by. Sony, I think, has been humbled somewhat, and hopefully they'll figure it out. I would like to see Sony be healthy and do okay. I don't wish.
No, I would like to also.
I don't wish Sony ill.
They've sold about 77 million, estimated for January 2013, 77 million PlayStations.
Yeah, roughly as many as Microsoft.
PlayStation 3s.
Yeah.
I would love to get the number on how many of those people bought it just for the Blu-ray.
Sure.
Like, I haven't turned mine on, and I'm not making a joke, probably in 3 years.
when it first came out, and more so when the price started dropping, I seem to recall that the PS3 was a cheap Blu-ray player. Now today you can buy a Blu-ray player for like $100, so that's no longer the case. But there was a good number of years there where it was reasonable to say, I'm just going to buy it for that, and maybe I play games, maybe I don't, but it was a reasonable price for a little while.
Now, as far as pricing goes, what can they possibly price this thing at that is going to be competitive in a market where?
Yeah, so these new devices are going to be very expensive. I think this is going to surprise people.
You think so? I mean, Sony did say that they're hoping it won't be $699.
It will be. There'll be a 6 in the number. I think. Yeah.
You think the same thing with Microsoft?
I think it's going to be 6. I think it's going to be $600.
But do you think it's going to be the same for Microsoft as well, or?
Yep. They're going to be.
I can't imagine that. I cannot imagine them. I mean, I can imagine them, but I don't necessarily feel that it's going to.
Well, the first. I'm not justifying that. Obviously, that's very expensive. The first Christmas season, the first holiday season that these devices are available, you're going to get the hardcore guys. They're going to sell every single one they can make, and at that price. And there are guys who bought multiple Xboxes. Guys who have owned every PlayStation ever made. They're going to buy it. They don't care. And then the price will go down. That's the way it is. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
But I mean, the Xbox price stuck around for a while. It didn't drop for a couple of years.
Yeah, I don't remember anymore on that one, but
I'm trying.
Obviously, we're at the point now where an Xbox 360 is very inexpensive.
$99 you could get a 360 at this point. What is it for Sony?
Yeah, no, that's the monthly fee one. It's $200, I would say, for
$200.
Xbox, yeah.
It's going to be very difficult for them to compete as a media consumption device, considering there's $79 Roku's out there, and there's $99 Apple TVs, and there's Google TV out there. So what can they possibly offer the casual gamer to buy this device? A lot of casual gamers bought an Xbox. A lot of casual gamers bought a PlayStation 3 because there was no other option. I'm a casual gamer at this point. I can't pick up the controller and play like Call of Duty for 10 hours. It doesn't. I'm so out of it at this point that I can't even do that.
I don't think these devices can do that. I mean, there will be those games, right? It's like you could play Zuma or whatever. Plants vs. Zombies maybe is a good example of that kind of game on any device, including the Xbox 360. You can play it on the web for free. I don't think people buy it because you can play those games. I think they buy it and sell it on a spouse or whatever because that's another one of the things it can do.
See, I don't think people, like a casual gamer never went in like, I'm going to buy an Xbox so I could play Plants vs. Zombies. I think people were gamers at one point and they continued purchasing these devices where they would maybe buy 1 or 2 games a year and have it and play it a little bit and forget about it. They weren't the hardcore user. But now I think those guys have kind of drifted off to the iOS world of gaming.
Yeah.
Where obviously it's not the same quality of gaming, but it's feeding that need to play video games.
It's not the same quality, but it's a much bigger volume. People who play games on, I don't know these figures off the top of my head, but I wrote about this a couple of weeks ago. I want to say it was close to 300 million active gamers on Facebook, some huge number. And so when you compare that with the 76 million Xbox 360s that Microsoft has sold, or the 40 plus million Xbox Live subscriptions that they have, which represent active people, using the service, things like iOS or Android or Facebook, are much bigger, much bigger markets. I don't think the 360 or the next generation Xbox or the PS4 are ever going to attract. No one's ever going to walk into a store and plunk down hundreds of dollars so they can play throwaway games in their off moments. The reason people play games on a phone is because they have it with them and it can pass the time when they're standing in line. Like, no one buys a smartphone saying, I can play Angry Birds.
No, but my iPad has become a console. It's become a gaming device for me. I read the news on there a little bit before I go to bed, and I start playing some stupid game on there, and I'll play for 2 hours, and I'll put it down.
But it's one of the many things you do. It's the versatility of that device is why it's attractive to you and to many people, right? It is that combination of things. And I think I keep calling it the 360, the Xbox or the PS4, the attraction to it is going to be amazing video game machine for some people. And if they do it right, it's going to be amazing living room set-top box that does everything you want and has more than the Apple TV, has more than the Roku, is way more powerful, lets you do multiple things at the same time, lets you watch an HBO show live with your friends who are watching it at home on their thing, and you've got avatars on the screen, and you're talking to each other about it and pausing it and having conversations and stuff. It's going to be these kind of new interactive experiences that are just too powerful to do on a Roku or Apple TV. It's something that's just not possible. And it's not going to be Angry Birds. You know, that will be there. That's just a checkbox on a PowerPoint presentation. It's not the reason you buy it.
It's so you can have it in your commercial.
Yeah, it's there. We got that too. Everyone has that.
You know who has a great opportunity to do phenomenal numbers with those casual gamers, and it's Nintendo. And they've totally dropped the ball on this. The way that you could, I mean, they have this vast library of games that they can make, I mean, just a killing off of people like me that, you know, they're a little nostalgic. Like, you know what? I really want to play Zelda. I really want to play
You want to
Mario.
play it on your iPad.
Not even on your, you know what? That would be great too, but I want to play it on my Wii. Oh. And we've seen them do this, what they're planning on doing.
I've done this. I mean, it's been a while, but years ago, I downloaded from their online service to the Wii one of the original Mario games. I mean, you can play classic.
But let me tell you how they screwed this up. So if you have a Wii U, you could actually, they actually sold under 100,000 units.
Yeah.
So that wasn't good either for them. But you could actually, you know, they have an online portion where you could buy games. And you can't buy the classics on there. You have to download an app called the Virtual Console and download the apps from there. And it's a totally different way of purchasing at games. Like they don't go two and two. They don't go, you know, hand in hand in this. Totally separate.
Yep. Stupid.
It's really stupid. I mean, just really dumb. You have this vast catalog. Why not do it that way? Doesn't make sense to me. I feel like there's something missing.
I feel but Nintendo is their own thing off to the side. You know, Sony and Microsoft are obviously going head to head. Nintendo found the secret sauce somehow with the Wii, where, you know, people kind of forget this. With the previous generation, Nintendo was a footnote. You know, Nintendo had the GameCube, and that didn't do very well. And PS2 was everything. You know, Nintendo came roaring back with the Wii, and then, of course, that has long gone. I mean, the Wii has been out of the running for over 2 years now, by the way. The original Wii. But for several years there, the Wii was like the biggest thing in the world. There is an audience of people. It seems like there always has been, you know, since the first Nintendo, the NES, this generation or now generations of people who just love that stuff. It's almost like they transcend these definitions of the markets, you know, where there are people who are hardcore about Nintendo, but they're not what we would call hardcore gamers.
Yeah.
And here we are on the other side with hardcore gamers who like PS3 or Xbox because there are particular games that only run on those systems. And then we have these entertainment experiences that are much richer on those systems because they're so much more powerful and they have those capabilities.
What do you think of these lower end, you know, these like PC gaming on your TV, these stream boxes that they're going up against also? Because that's something that didn't exist either, you know, 8 years ago.
You know, when OnLive was announced a couple of years ago, it sounded like a fantasy, like something that wasn't possible. And if you've used an OnLive, you know, it kind of works. It has some lag, latency type issues and so forth, and it seems like it hasn't taken off. I'm a little bit surprised that someone like Sony or Microsoft or even Nintendo hasn't bought them just to use the, you know, technology in their own products. But I don't know. You know, Steam is obviously working on stuff, and there'll always be someone, you know, trying to make this thing happen. I just think that the market for dedicated games is full. You know, like this is it. You know, that run rate you were talking about, 76 million, 77 million units, whatever it is, 100 million for the Wii, I guess. Done.
You're not going to be able to do that with just a console.
No, and if you look at the way like devices have sold, like there are 1.2, 1.3 billion PCs in the world, right? Huge numbers. 500 million iOS devices, 600 million Android devices. Those are like huge markets. And so I think those are the types of things you need to shoot for, because if you scale it back, like 60 something million Mac users, 40 million something like that actual Xbox users, probably 40 million roughly actual PS3 users. It's a market. You can make money on it, but it's not the next billion users. The big markets here are the next billion, and those aren't them.
Very cool, Paul. We have one more sponsor here that we need to talk about, and I want to talk about.
Is it the one that's like Sedge =Sedge 0?
No. This for people have no clue what we're talking about. I don't know what happened. Well, I was doing the notes. I guess one of my cats got on the laptop. It's literally, and I'm gonna post. Chinese. I'm gonna post this, and then I wrote, I have no idea what the.
I highlighted it like seriously.
I'm doing, and then I wrote "lol" next to it. I literally have no idea what it was. I'm going to post in the chat room. This is exactly what I wrote to Paul as far as sponsors go. But no, it's not that alien advertiser. It's Ting. What is Ting, you say? Well, Ting is mobile done right. Ting is a mobile service for cell phones. You can do mobile hotspots with it, but you don't have any of the BS like you do with the other guys. They're not going to charge you with these hidden costs. There's no early termination fee. It's totally contract free, so you don't have to sign up for 2 years. It's running on Sprint's network nationwide, so it's reliable. It's going to work. And the cool thing about Ting is that you could bring your phone over. So if you have a Sprint phone and your contract is ending, you want to go on to Ting, very easy. You just sign up on their website. Go to gfq.ting.com. You even get $25 of a credit when you sign up for service. Some of the services that you get is, of course, voicemail, caller ID, free tethering, no extra fees for that, hotspots, three-way calling, all those things that you get with the other guys, but no cost with this. So this is why I like Ting. Let's say you have a phone, you want to bring it over, and you really don't need too many minutes. You're not making too many calls on this. Like me, I don't really get too many phone calls on this one. I would just, drop the minutes down and put the data usage up, and you could even use it as a VoIP phone. I mean, it's that easy with Ting. If you want to add another phone to your line, it's an easy $6. That's all it is. Unlimited everything, pretty much, you could do even on the phone. So it's whatever you want. It's totally customizable, totally easy to use. Website, gfq.ting.com. Go there. Support us. Help us out, guys. And sign up, and you get $25 of a credit. And I want to thank Ting for supporting What the Tech. Ting. I wonder if they could incorporate Ting in Google Glasses, Paul.
Jeez.
Because that's what I want. I want contract-free calling from my eyes. I want to talk about this for a little bit because we had a quick discussion before we went on the air today. And, I saw the video. And for months, I've been saying this is the dumbest thing in the world. I hate Google Glasses. Who's going to walk around with this stupid thing on their head? And then I took a look at the video. I'm like, you know what? It's pretty cool. Like, the things that it could do, it's pretty cool, and it's not as dumb as having like a wristwatch, like an iPhone watch or whatever they're coming out, the iWatch. As far as like dumb factor goes, I don't think one is more than the other. I think they're on the same level. Do you think this thing is going to take off? You know what I really would like? I really would like a contact lens, like a Google contact lens that I could put in one eye.
Yeah, actually, so I think that this Google Glass thing is a very basic first step towards, I don't know what to call it, like embeddable, biological computers or something. Or, the notion that you have to wear glasses is ludicrous, right? But you have to start somewhere to get to this kind of new way of doing things. I'm not personally interested in this very much. I think I would be. It's got like the kind of Mission Impossible type thing where, it's like you can see something on the glasses. Like I don't know. I mean, it's a way to get where, they want to get to. Yeah. So it's the first step. I mean, it's just.
Where do you see us going with this? Like Google Contacts, obviously, like something that's in your actual eye.
Sure.
I want that. Why not? Well, like cyborgs.
I don't know. I obviously that video. I watched the video you forwarded, the kind of Google Glasses promotional video, and it's like science fiction, and it's one of those things. Anyone who's watched a good tech demo knows a lot of times
It won't
Things
happen.
don't really work in the real world like the way they do in the demo, and it's I'm sure they'll get it there. It's like, think about Siri and how ridiculous Siri is in real life compared to how they advertise it, and then look at that and
times it by 3,000.
Yeah, it's just, I think they'll get it there. I mean, Google, they're insane. Yeah, they're going to keep going at it, and
I mean, unlike the other device that we discussed, the Pixel, I could see where they're going with something like this. Like, I could really see them developing this into something that people will actually use.
So, right. So, Google Glass and the Pixel display, the what's it called? ChromeBook Pixel.
ChromeBook Pixel.
Are both wrong, but for different reasons.
Fabulous. I would use the word fabulous. You would use the word wrong.
Right. So, Chromebook Pixel is wrong because it's too expensive, and maybe that's just how expensive it has to be today. And if they could have gotten it to $600, maybe it would have made sense. Google Glass is wrong because it's not going to be ready. V1 is going to be stupid.
But here's the thing: with any V1 device, right? I could see the next 10 years of this device evolving. Like, I know, like the iPad, for example, the iPad, I could see where it's evolving to. From the first gen device to now, we could see an evolution of a device. I could see an evolution of this of the Google Glasses. I cannot see any kind of evolution for the Pixel.
No, right. It's a dead end. It's like Windows RT. It's just a dead end. Right, exactly. But the Google Glass thing, like, I wonder about things like onboard storage and how big that would have to be and where could it be. And, if I don't have connectivity and I make a video, I record like a 12-second video of my kid playing in the yard.
And where does it go?
Is it all the storage the thing has? I mean, like, how does that...
Well,
listen, have you ever tried to type in a password using a remote controlling your TV?
Yes, all the time.
It's awful, right?
Yeah.
So how awful would it be? How do you do that on the... Do you blink? Like, is it Morse code? I mean, how... You just know it's going to be inelegant in the beginning. Like, we'll get it. I get it. It's going to get there, but...
like, you go on it... Like, I can imagine, like, you go on a date, you look at them, it does a scan, and it brings up the rap sheet.
Right.
Like, that's what I could see using this for.
What about the people who already have glasses? What do they have to do?
Put them on top of them.
Is it like when you wear 3D glasses in the movie theater and you have to have both on at the same time?
Metro Scene in the chat room says, what's worse, holding up an iPad to take a picture or using your Google Glasses to take a picture?
So I could picture ripping Google Glasses off of someone's face and stepping on them. Yeah.
And
being like, hey, pay attention. Real world's out here.
You want to hear something hysterical that I noticed in that demo video they were showing where... Did you watch the whole thing?
Yeah.
There was a part where, like, he's twirling the kid around, or the kid is running around him, and he's recording it. Mm-hmm. And he's recording, like, her, like, nose up.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that was real time, like that was like real time usage, or like
they claim that these videos were all taken with the device.
Okay, so if that's the case, it is awful to record because I guess the level of your eye, what you're seeing, is not the same as recording. So like you're recording, if let's say the you're looking here, you actually have to look here so it records it. I was like, they couldn't have like cropped that a little bit in the video.
Listen, if you had gone to Disney World in 1985 or whatever, you would have seen people carrying around giant VHS camcorders, which today are bigger than the things that professional TV studios use out in the field.
Yeah.
To record home videos. So people have proven that they will do like really stupid things to capture videos of the kids. The iPad thing, which I can't stand, is just the logical successor of that. I mean,
if you had any kind of like power, if you ran for mayor of Boston, that would be like one of the first things you do, right? Outlaw like any kind of iPads to be used for photography.
Right.
Or videography.
Right.
You see it in the city. Like I see it in the city all the time. All the time.
It's like seriously. The thing that bugs me about it is, that the goon who's doing that has an iPhone in their pocket.
Oh, 100%.
And that iPhone can take a way better picture, like a way better picture than the one they're taking with the iPad.
I went out with Josh the other night. We were at a bar in the city, and the guy had an iPad and he was taking pictures of like his friends with the iPad. And I turned to Jess. I'm like, I'm gonna murder him. Like, I'm gonna murder somebody tonight. Yep. Because like I don't understand why. And it wasn't even the latest iPad. It was an iPad 2.
Sure.
You know, it would have been great if it was an original iPad and he was just trying to take a picture with it. Just trying.
The best one is when they also have like the smart cover that's like magnetically connected to it.
So they got to flip it.
The thing they're holding up is like it's like hanging down like 3 feet or whatever.
Oh, I love it. Amazing. No, but you know what? But again, the Google Glasses thing, it's fascinating to me. It's fascinating because it's this futuristic device, and I like to think about what we're gonna have. Sure. And it's like, wow, this is like the future. Like, forget about the flying car because that's not happening. But this weird the thing that's projecting in front of me, and I can see all this stuff, that's gonna happen. And it's working to some extent. So obviously we're 5 years or 10 years away from this device becoming a real world device. But
obviously, I've spent my life immersed in technology, but I'm really nervous that we're going a little too far in this stuff sometimes. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm going to move to the woods and like chop wood with an axe or anything.
Well, it's becoming the future. Like, this is like really like the future.
Yeah.
It's
scary.
I
mean, I'm getting uncomfortable with it. You know what I mean? Like, smartphones, I get. Tablets, got it. PCs, obviously.
Well, think about it. I mean, books are going away, right?
Yep. I don't mind that. That's fine.
Books are gone.
Yep.
We're going to start burning them for fire.
I am a huge lover of books. Always have been. I'm A-okay with. Like, that I'm okay with. I know that drives some people crazy. Music, people talk about, we're losing audio fidelity, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Got it. Music.
But you lost audio fidelity with a record.
Okay, but
I mean,
sure.
Over time you played it and it got crappier.
Well, but I think the point is, like, everyone has their own pet peeve for this thing. The point where the line gets crossed. Yeah. Where they've had enough, I have a development background. I did a lot of stuff with like every Microsoft data access technology imaginable, and there were many of them. They kept revising and changing them and evolving them. And by the time we got to like the XML world and all that kind of stuff, I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm done.
What is one thing that you would like to see?
Like technological?
Yeah, like in the future, like the thing that you would really want to see.
You have to kind of tone it down to something like reasonable.
I want to be able to shoot laser from my eyes.
Okay, well,
that's what I would like in the future. Someone said a hoverboard. Like, you know what? Realistically, this is what I would like to see: an electric car that actually works.
Yeah, you will see that. That's going to happen.
I mean,
it's happening. It's already happening.
It's happening. But like, that is like the all-time device that like. That's like something that people will. It'll change the way we work and we function. Like, the story with the washing machine? Have you ever? There was a great TED conference about the washing machine. They said the washing machine is the all-time greatest invention of the 20th century.
Yeah,
because it changed people's lives throughout the world, and because a washing machine was the essence of class. You had money. It was a luxury item, and it's slowly over the 100 years, it's come down to even the poorest sections of India have a washing machine, but they don't have a refrigerator. They have a cell phone, but they don't want a refrigerator. They would rather have a cell phone.
I guess. I mean, you could own an apartment in any city in this country and not have a washing machine, but you'd have a cell phone and.
But you still use a washing. I mean, you go. You're not hand washing it. You're going to a laundromat and you're washing your clothes.
There are technologies that I thought would have been a bigger deal, and every once in a while, I think it's like just about to make a comeback. Voice recognition is the big one, where the original tablet PC that Microsoft had, one of the things that was going to be one of the input types that never really kind of happened was like voice, that you were going to be able to, do like a Dragon naturally speaking type thing, and not just give it commands, but dictate to it. Write emails, browse the web, write articles in Word, which is something I've always sort of considered as something that would be interesting to do, but isn't actually interesting in real life. It always seems like we're getting there. Like Siri is another one where you're like, oh, maybe this is it. Or Windows 8, people talk, or the Kinect, where people talk about, oh, you wave your hands in front of the machine. Like, no, actually, the big thing is you talk to it.
Yeah, Google Now.
Yeah.
And by the way, Google Now is a 1,000 times better than Siri.
Okay.
Really good. Really good. But, the amazing part of this is that it's not using it's actually all being processed in the cloud.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yep.
To think about how far we've gotten with that. Yeah, you're right. Voice recognition. By the way,
to bring this back to the first topic, that is exactly the change that has occurred. That is why the PS4 is what it is.
Yeah.
That in the past, you would have assumed that all of that voice stuff required incredible hardware and all this local software, that Microsoft or some other company would develop the software, load it onto a computer, and that's what would make it work. But what really makes it work is a cloud service, like you said. And that's the thinking behind the PS4, that we don't need to have all of that crazy power on the client because it's the cloud service that's running the show.
I still want to know what you want, like a thing in the future that like you've read about that you want to happen. Like
from a science fiction book?
From like a science fiction book. I want to be like Cyclops in the X-Men. I don't know what you want to be.
No. I mean, seriously, the ability to transport yourself to anywhere on Earth would be
phenomenal.
Yeah. The thing I would like to do more than anything in life, like honestly, like pure science fiction, and I would do it in a way that would like not subvert the Star Trek rules of time travel, which would be I would like to go back in time, in place to not just like back in time to where I am now, but back in time to a place, just to see it,
what it was like,
just to observe it as an observer, it would be aming. That ability.
Like that's going to happen. I really see that happening. Maybe not for in our lifetime, but you know how that's going to happen? Google right now is driving around every year, and they're recording streets, and they're recording everything that you
but
can
until
see.
They can drive around in the past. Well, Google Maps.
Well, not in the past,
but you could go back in time would be kind of interesting. I mean, I realize they have.
Well, I could see them doing that in the next 100 years if Google's still around. There will be a service that says, okay, you know what? You want to go back to, the year 2000, 2014?
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, because we started doing this, right.
Because we're documenting it now.
Here's a street in Paris that
50 years ago
changed. No, but let's go, when we can fast motion it or whatever. Yeah, that's cool. That is cool. But they can't help me with the 1700s.
No, they can't. They could guess. They could guess, what's happening. It's fascinating. We should do another future episode. I want to talk more about my.
Who knows? Maybe we already have.
What Paul doesn't know is I am from the future. That's why I look like this. This is what we all look like in the future. Everybody looks like
this
me.
Is what humanity has settled on. This is what
humanity settled on the magician look. We've all become swarthy, non-discreet, and possibly Mediterranean, possibly Middle Eastern. We don't know. But we all look like magicians in the future, Paul.
Roughly what I expected.
We're all doomed. Paul, that's it. It was a fun show.
I can't believe I kept the hat on for the whole show.
You did. I took mine off a little while ago.
I'm not a hat wearer.
Yeah. Well, it looked great on you. Look at that. It's given this like fisheye effect to the camera.
I know. It looks like it's completely altered like the color map of my office.
It's like this wide angle lens on the camera.
I know, it's nuts.
For all things Paul Therai, go to winsupersite.com. Of course, you can follow Paul on Twitter at The Rot. I'm at Andrew Zarian. You can follow me on Twitter. You can find me everywhere, but I'm on Twitter. I'll take pictures of mannequins and I'll post them every now and then. That's all I do. I don't know. It's my thing. I go to the mall and I take pictures of mannequins. And I hope I have X-ray vision one day and lasers. I want to shoot lasers from my Google glasses to people that have.
Fly, yes.
I'm really curious what people are going to think of the iPad in like 50 years.
Sure.
That's what I would love to know.
Like Google Glasses, the way to think of it is before there were movies, they had those boxes, like in the Old West, and they'd spin them up and like it would animate pictures in there, and it would give you a very real simulation of basically a movie. It was like a manual way to create a movie, and that's the Google Glasses compared to like 4K movies today. And so it's gonna, it has a progression that has to occur. And that's just the way it is, with any new electric cars, same thing.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's really exciting. Again, If you miss any portion of the show, you go to our website, gfknetwork.com. Guys, if you're watching this live, and I know a lot of you downloaded, please subscribe to us. We're on iTunes, we're on Windows Phone, we're everywhere you can imagine. The show might be a couple days late to edit. Our editor is out of town, so if it's taking over a day, please forgive us. It won't ever happen again, and I've already gotten an infraction from Paul for this, so I can't afford another infraction. And we'll see you all next week on What the Tech. Good night, everybody.